Why Papua New Guinea must immediately become a republic? Several reasons. Those reasons are contained in this book. Later on, the king declared Papua New Guinea a republic and appointed the president as head of state. Before I explain those reasons, let me first explain a few key words. Number one, republic. A republic is a system of government where the head of state is an ordinary person who is voted into that office by the people and is subject to the people. Number two, constitutional monarchy. A constitutional monarchy is also a system of government where the head of state is a monarch, a king or a queen. Papua New Guinea is a constitutional monarchy. Why? Because we have King Charles III as both king and head of state. Number three, sovereignty. Sovereignty is a sovereign authority, an ultimate authority a nation state has to govern itself without interference from outside powers. Okay, now let me explain the reasons why Papua New Guinea must immediately become a republic. Number one, Papua New Guinea is still a colony. You have heard me correctly. Papua New Guinea is still a colony. Papua New Guinea is not an independent sovereign nation as we have been led to believe all these times. Number two, Papua New Guineans, you are not in charge of this nation. A foreign monarch is in charge of this nation. The most powerful person in Papua New Guinea is not the Prime Minister, is not the Chief Justice, is not the Speaker of Parliament, let alone all the rest. The most powerful person in Papua New Guinea is King Charles III. Why? Because he is the king of Papua New Guinea and the head of state. So that's why he is the most powerful person in Papua New Guinea. And number three, Papua New Guinea's sovereignty is not with Papua New Guineans. Papua New Guinea's sovereignty has long been surrendered to Buckingham Palace. Sovereignty, as I have explained, is the authority to govern oneself, govern a nation. That ultimate authority, we surrendered it to Buckingham Palace. We don't have it here. We surrendered the sovereignty of this nation to Buckingham Palace. We don't have it. Buckingham Palace had that sovereignty. So Buckingham Palace in turn governs us using that sovereignty, reigns over us using that sovereignty. Okay, now let me take you through the Constitution so that you can appreciate. Section 82 of the Constitution declares the King of England or Great Britain to be the king of Papua New Guinea and head of state. That is not ceremonial in nature. That is a substantive constitutional provision that declares that the British Monarch is also king and head of state of Papua New Guinea. Section 83 states that if the reigning monarch dies, whoever is the successor automatically becomes the next king and head of state of Papua New Guinea. Queen Elizabeth II died and automatically King Charles III became king and head of state of Papua New Guinea. To become the king and head of state in Papua New Guinea, you don't have to vote that person into that office. No. King and head of state is not subject to election. Is totally immune from election. All the Governor General, who is the official representative of the king and head of state, can be voted into that office and voted out. But you can never, under the Constitution, there is no provision that the king can be voted into that office and voted out. Never. We gave that power away to Buckingham Palace permanently. We appointed a permanent king over this nation, and we can never change it unless we amend the Constitution. Section 84 states that all other persons in Papua New Guinea are subject to the king, and full stop. So Section 84 simply declares that all Papua New Guineans are the subject of the monarch. So all of you who are watching right now are the subjects of the monarch. Your own constitution says that of all persons in Papua New Guinea, including the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice, the Governor General, and parliament speaker, let alone all the rest. All of you are subject to the king. So that means that section 84 basically renders you all mere subject of the monarch, and full stop. In your own country, you claim to be citizens, but your own constitution says that you are all subject to the monarch. Section 85 implies that all of Papua New Guinea is the realm of the monarch. Go and read section 85. All of Papua New Guinea is the realm of the monarch. Simply means all of Papua New Guinea is the territory of the king. Your own constitution declares that the whole territory of Papua New Guinea is the territory of the king. You can own a small piece of land and claim that this is my customary land. Or you can own a piece of land in any urban area and say that this is my land. Well, don't you know that the whole landmass, which we call Papua New Guinea, is the king's territory, is the realm of the king, where the king exercises his jurisdiction, where the king reigns over it. So the whole landmass is under the ownership of the king. And section 86 of the Constitution says that NEC, National Executive Council, is only an advisory body. So all these times we have been led to think that NEC, National Executive Council, has the power. But according to section 86 of the Constitution, NEC is only an advisory body. As a matter of fact, NEC is the chief advisor to the king. The king has raw executive power to govern this nation. Section 100 of the Constitution vests the legislative power of the people. The power to make laws is vested in the parliament, and the parliament is an institution. It's not an individual. Parliament is an institution. The power to make law, that power is vested or deposited in the legislature or the parliament, according to section 100 of the Constitution. Section 158 of the Constitution, the judicial power of the people, that is the power to interpret the law that is made by the parliament. That power is vested in the National Judicial System, consisting of the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, the National Court, and the District Court. So, National Judicial System is not individual, but is an institution. The courts are not individuals, but they are institutions. So, the judicial power of the people is vested in an institution. But section 138 of the Constitution vests the executive power of the people, the power to govern and the power to enforce the laws of the country. This is the highest power, the power to govern and the power to enforce the laws. That power is vested not in the National Executive Council, but is vested in the king, and the king is not an institution, but the king is an individual. Therefore, King Charles III has raw executive power. You have been misled to think that King Charles III or the head of state is just a ceremonial figure. You can say that, but look at section 138 of the Constitution. Your NEC, your National Executive Council, doesn't have any power. It is only a chief advisor to the king, according to section 86 of the Constitution. It is an advisory body. The real executive power lies with King Charles III. We surrendered executive power. We surrendered our sovereignty to Buckingham Palace. That's why all your legal instruments have no legal validity unless Buckingham Palace endorses them. That's why the election of the Prime Minister is not valid unless after the election they rush down to Government House and bow down to the King, and the King endorses their election and the election becomes valid. The Chief Justice's appointment is not valid until Buckingham Palace endorses it. Why? Because Section 138 gave the executive power away to Buckingham Palace. That is raw executive power. That's why the king is the most powerful person in Papua New Guinea, but yet we have been fed with a colonial narrative to downplay the effect of what we did. So this time, they have all these times they have said it's just a ceremonial office, it's just a ceremonial figure. Well, what about Section 138 of the Constitution? What about Section 82 of the Constitution? According to Section 82, we literally declared the British monarch as both king and head of state. And according to section 83 of the Constitution, the king is not subject to election, because if he dies, automatically the king and the head of state position will automatically go to the next heir or successor. The king is not subject to us. King is not subject to the people. King is absolute. King has authority over the nation. Prime Minister is subject to the king. All the departmental heads are subject to the king. All the people are subject to the king. Look at section 84. Section 84 says that of all persons in Papua New Guinea, the king and head of state takes precedence in rank. And the Governor General takes precedence in rank immediately after the king and head of state. Who then is the Governor General and who is the king? It's the one and the same person. According to section 82 and 83, the Governor General is the official representative of the king. King is not omnipresent, so king rules is colonized through Governor Generals. Don't you know that? A Governor General is a officer representative. So when you see the Governor General, you are actually seeing the king himself. So the Governor General doesn't have any power of his own. The Governor General only exercises the power of the king. So that's why King George III is running this country, is reigning over this country through the government house. Okay, now I come to sections 92 and 93 of the Constitution. According to section 92 and 93 of the Constitution, even the Governor General, who is the official representative of the king, does something wrong, he can be terminated from the office, he can be suspended from the office state by the king and the head of state based on the advice of the Parliament and the Ombudsman Commission. Well, but the king himself is not subject to prosecution. The king is not subject to the Constitution, is not subject to the people, is not subject to the people because he can't be voted in and voted out. We gave that power away to Buckingham Palace permanently. The king is not subject to prosecution, is not subject to the rule of law because he can never be prosecuted, because the Constitution doesn't provide for any penalty. The Constitution only provides for the penalties against the Governor General, who is only a representative of the king. But the king himself is not subject to prosecution, is not subject to the laws of Papua New Guinea, and yet he has the raw executive power to govern this nation. Unlike Constitution of United States of America, because United States of America, the president is both the head of state and the head of government. So that's why, according to Article 2, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, the reigning president can be impeached if he is found to have committed bribery, treason, or any other serious offense, because he can be prosecuted under the Constitution of the United States, which means that he is subject to the Constitution, he is subject to the rule of law, and he is subject to the people because people will vote him in and vote him out if they don't like him. Unlike Papua New Guinea, our king and head of state is not subject to the people because he can't be voted in. He is not subject to the laws of this nation, including the Constitution, because he can't be penalized. There's no provision in the Constitution, let alone all other legislations. He is totally immune from prosecution. He is totally immune from election, and yet we surrendered power away. We don't have the power back here at home. We are under a foreign rule, and whoever is the head rules. So there are a lot of things in the Constitution. I, for one, consider this to be a serious blunder we have committed, and I, for one, believe that many of the problems we are facing as a nation can be attributed to these very mistakes we made. I say mistakes, yes, of course, these are mistakes we made. But if you study how all these things happened, you will really appreciate that having the king as sovereign and head of state of Papua New Guinea was never the idea of our founding fathers. Our founding fathers never wanted to have a king over us or have a foreign monarch to reign over us. That was never their intention. If you read chapter 7 of the Constitutional Planning Committee report, it is very clear. They categorically stated that we don't want, it was not compatible with Melanesian culture. Therefore, we would not like to have a king over Papua New Guinea. If you read, our founding fathers never wanted a king to reign over this country. Our founding fathers never wanted a foreign monarch to reign over us. They categorically stated that in Chapter 7 of the Constitution Planning Committee report. They wanted a republican system of government where we would have a president, or if not, the power of the head of state would be shared amongst the three heads of government. That's what they wanted. They actually wanted a republican system of government. They never wanted a king to reign over us. But you know what happened? On the eve of independence, when the constitution was about to be passed, Lord Mountbatten, Queen Elizabeth II's cousin, came to Papua New Guinea and persuaded, pressured our government to adopt. So that's why at the very last minute they inserted those provisions into our constitution, and thereby turning Papua New Guinea into a constitutional monarchy, thereby adopting a foreign monarch as both monarch and head of state of this country, Papua New Guinea. I asked Chief Dr. John Mommis, and that's what he said. The video is online. So you see, colonial masters at the very last minute manipulated the constitution to keep us in perpetual subjugation. 50 years is long enough. Now we must make a decision to set ourselves completely free. We must declare ourselves a republic, appoint our own head of state, our homegrown head of state, and stand on our own 2 feet. In the next video, I will address the implications and other things. But thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for your attention. Time has now come. We must declare ourselves a republic as soon as possible. 50 years of being under colonial rule is enough. In the next 50 years, we must stand on our own feet. Thank you.